I'm going to show you how to install Ubuntu Linux on VirtualBox. You can download and install VirtualBox yourself. Pretty easy on Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. If you want to install Linux on your Linux box with VirtualBox, go for it. I'll put notes in the description below on where to go, how to download, any gotchas if I encounter any. But let's get started. It's pretty easy once you have VirtualBox installed and running. Just click on New, where to install Ubuntu 20 LTS. I downloaded the desktop image. You can do the server if you want to. I'd recommend the desktop image, but anyway, so after that, you should get type Linux and version Ubuntu there. If you give it a different name, you'll want to select those two from the drop downs there. I would recommend a minimum of 4 gigabytes of RAM. That's 4096 megabytes. I have 16 gig of RAM on my system. You don't want to use any more than half of your RAM. So to use 4 gig of memory on your box, you'll need at least 8 gig of RAM in your system. So don't go any more than halfway across this slider on your system when you install it. And if you have less than 8 gig, I'd put it way down here at the bottom. And then we'll accept all the remaining defaults, except since we're doing the desktop system and it has the windowing system installed as part of it, which the server I do not believe does. You'll need about 30 gig of storage. You can get away with less, but again, your local system, you'll need at least that much in available storage. If you're getting close to having a full disk, you can get away with 15 or 20 gig. I think you'll be okay, but 30 seems optimal by my experience. We'll go ahead and create it. One thing we're going to go ahead and do here is if you click on storage, where you'll see the IDE controller is empty. We're going to add the live CD. So I'm not sure if you have to check that option, but I'm going to say choose on disk and navigate to your drop downs or wherever you downloaded the Ubuntu image. You'll need to download the Ubuntu ISO file for the version you want to install. I'll have a link to that in the description below once we get to that. So once you get there, we've got our live CD we can start when we boot up. So let's get started. Let's fire up the VM and see what happens. Okay, yep, there's our start disk. It's found. Okay, I've fast forwarded a bit. You'll ultimately or eventually come to this install screen, the welcome screen. Just choose your language. We're going to choose the install Ubuntu option. We're installing it on our local VM. If you just wanted to continue to use the live CD and not write to that virtual disk, you could do that. It was kind of meaningless. Just go ahead and click install Ubuntu. And then you'll come to this keyboard layout. You can do detect your layout. I'm just going to go. The OS is pretty smart about figuring out what it needs there. So English and English. And the other thing to note here is we're going to do normal installation. If you don't have a ton of disk space and you chose a smaller disk size earlier, you can select the minimal installation here. I'm going to have it go ahead and download updates when it's installing the OS. You can disable that if you want to do a quicker install, or if your system's kind of memory constrained at the time. You will just do the quick and easy without installing all the updates as we go. But I'm going to go ahead and do that because I can fast forward it here and it'll save things for me in the long run. We're not going to worry about any third-party software at this time. Okay, fast forward a tiny bit again, and you'll come to the installation type, and you get this kind of ominous warning: erase disk and install Ubuntu. Just know that we're not erasing the hard drive on your system. It's just the virtual disk that we created on setup that's being erased. So you can go ahead and click install now without fear of anything weird happening or losing any data on your system. This will only wipe that virtual disk, which is empty anyway for all intents and purposes now, and it's going to do no harm to your system. So we click install now. We'll accept the default here for the disk partitioning. And then we come to the time zone. Where are you? You can just click anywhere to set it to different time zones. I happen to be in the New York time zone, so it detected that. I'm going to click continue from there. And then, okay, now we're going to set up our user account, or our individual user account. I'm going to call this Ubuntu. Oops, it's not going to let me. A little too far. Keyboard is responsive. I'm going to have this automatically log me in because this is a virtual machine that I'll start and stop in my own private account. So you can choose whatever you want, but I mean, I'm just going to have it do it automatically so I can do one less step when I fire up the VM each time. Alright, and then setup will run for a while. It'll look like this, and then I'm going to fast forward a bit and pick up the last little bits here at the end. Okay, been about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes until I got the installation complete window, so I'll be a bit older when we get to this point. You have the option of restarting now. I'm going to just close this window and I'm going to power off instead, and I'll show you why in a second. So we will close, or actually just pick the and I'm going to say power off and select power off. Okay, so now you get the please remove installation medium and press enter. I'm going to go ahead and close the VM window with power off again. And then I'm going to go back to my storage media here, and I am going to remove this. So no longer have it. So it will just be running off of our installation of Ubuntu on the VM itself. So we click OK there. We restart our system. And voila. There we are. We're logged in. As you recall, I selected the option to automatically log in the VM. If you're greeted with a login window, you just have to enter the username and password you set when you created the account. But other than that, you are up and running with Ubuntu on your VirtualBox VM.